NFR Extra follows all your favorite cowboys, interviews legends of rodeo, and talks to the best of country music. Follow Nevada Caldwell, Ryland Bentley, and Steve Godert every week as they delve deep into the stories behind the road to gold in Vegas at the National Finals Rodeo. It's revealing, comedic, and sometimes emotional. Find it on Spotify or anywhere you listen to podcasts. NFR Extra. All dirt, all rodeo, all year.
So during COVID, we found out that we aged 11 years. So we jumped from 2019 with the 85th annual to 2021 to our 97th annual. Our office staff, they were going through old paperwork and we had thought that everything we had found was 1935. Well, in reality, we went back and found that in 1924, we held the first rodeo and it was a gymkhana. But how come we were kind of sticking with 1935 was that's the year that we got lights, and that's the year that we became a night rodeo. We were one of the first ones in the area to actually have a night rodeo.
NFR Extra, episode 106. Nikki Zachary from Caldwell Night Rodeo joins us on NFR Extra. Nikki talks about the history of CNR, the story behind the logo, and the division between the infamous Rowdies and Civies.
I like that the logo has a story. I mean, like, we try and implement like pieces into our logos, right? Like NFR After Dark, like we're starting to integrate skies, and our logos ourselves are starting to tell stories. Like Rodeo Live Stage has the guitar and, you know, the kind of setup set. I don't know, I think it's a lot more fun when you can see a logo that really tells a story. The whole train track thing, like I've seen the logo and I guess I just never really thought about it. Like, oh, maybe it was near a railroad. I don't know. You don't really think about like why.
No, but a train
is in a logo.
By. Yeah.
One of the rodeos in Utah, it has a white grandstand. I can't think of any name at the moment, but it has a train that literally you can see it from the grandstands, and it comes through like once or twice a day. And we went up there one time to pick up a horse, and actually it was the barrel horse I ran in college. One of our friends, they were driving through, so they're like, hey, I'll drop the horse here, feed it, leave your water buckets, and you guys will be there 2 hours later, but you know, I gotta keep going, so I'll just leave her there. Well, when we got there, I was like, well, I'm gonna get on her, walk around a little bit just to loosen up her legs. She'd been hauling, they brought her back up from Texas, I think it's Lehigh. And so we got there and I'm riding, and she was just barely turned 5, which isn't super young in a horse's world, but she wasn't hauled very much, so she was still super young in the mind. And I remember we were riding and this train came zooming by, honking the horn and everything, and she just like froze, like, what is that noise? And I just remember, trains. Not all horses are desensitized from trains.
Yeah, I could imagine. With the power too, right? Like you're not just sounds, it's all that.
You feel it. Yeah, you feel it on the ground. So like she just froze because she was like, what's like, I remember she literally froze and just kind of looked down like, what's going on?
Yeah, but you look at movies and it looks like horses running down trains all the time, right? Like they're robbing train, they're on with robbers and jumping on a train and stuff like that.
But you got to think about like the reality of horses. Until they've seen it a couple times, they don't know what it is. Like you have to, just like humans, like you watch fireworks or you sit by a fire, don't touch, it's hot. Common things you learned growing up, like same thing with a horse. You have to teach them like, hey, the fireworks are okay. They don't know where it's coming from. They just hear noises, you know, they don't get a fair warning. Hey, the fireworks are about to go off. You don't get to explain that to them. Their sensories are all, you know, see and feel. So when the ground shakes, you know.
Well, fireworks and animals, no go. That's not
no go.
Doesn't work.
Not a fan.
Any animal.
No.
And my daughter doesn't like fireworks either. She's along with dogs and horses and animals, which she loves.
She's like a little spirit animal.
She is. She's my spirit animal, for sure. Enjoy our conversation with Nikki Zachary on NFR Extra.
Finding your custom NFR experience in Las Vegas just got a lot easier. New this year is a resource that links you to every hotel offer. At nfrexperience.com/stay your way, you can shop for the hotel that best fits your plans. Everything is there. Information on viewing parties, concerts, price, transportation, location, and so much more. All in one place. Go to nfrexperience.com/stay your way. One Vegas. Stay your way.
This is Stetson Wright, and you're listening to NFR Extra.
Now in its 97th year, Caldwell Night Rodeo is listed among the top 20 professional rodeos and top 5 large outdoor rodeos in the nation. As the first rodeo in the Pacific Northwest to ever be held under the lights, Caldwell Night Rodeo offers a true rodeo experience unlike any other. With over 600 world-class contestants and 7 action-packed nightly events, equally divided by the infamous Rowdies and Civies, the CNR crowd plays an interactive role in the excitement of this one-of-a-kind rodeo. Caldwell never disappoints. We find out what makes the Caldwell Night Rodeo so special. Nikki Zachary, welcome to NFR Extra. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you. As we've been, myself and Brylan and Steve's not with us today, but as we've been paying attention to the rodeo industry this past summer, it's been hot, fire, no pun. I know up north there's been a lot of fires, but like the rodeo industry itself has been back on fire again. The tour rodeo is just looking at full capacity, people having a great time. Probably maybe some took it for granted and now see like, oh my God, I don't want to miss in a moment. The community, everything that comes about. Walk us through because it sounds like just like every other person that runs rodeos or is a rodeo athlete or in the Western industry or just in life in general, 2020 to 2021 has been super interesting. Talk to us about Caldwell Rodeo 2020 and then getting up here to 2021.
We started rocking with 2020 thinking we were going to, just have our rodeo. And then all of a sudden the pandemic hit. We started having our meetings on Zoom like everybody else, trying to come up with contingency plans. We were trying to do anything and everything that we could to have our rodeo. And it didn't work out. And people around here were upset that we didn't have the rodeo, and they didn't understand how much work and thought and how many meetings and everything that we had put into it to try to have the rodeo. So when we had to cancel the rodeo, it was completely devastating. When we canceled in July, we decided that we were going to start working towards 2021 to make it the best rodeo that we've ever had. So we decided to add breakaway roping to our events, which that was a huge success. And then we decided to let's do some revamping of our cowboy hospitality and make it so, I guess not make it so that they're more welcome because they were always welcome, but let's make it bigger and better. We have this time off from the rodeo and let's just make everything better. We decided to really focus on our volunteers as well. Without our rodeo, volunteers are a big key part of our rodeo. And without them, we couldn't have it. So we just decided to take this time to look at a few points and make it bigger and better than we ever had before.
Were there some things that you like, we've learned this from some other folks. Were there some things that you were doing that maybe you got rid of or that just weren't working? I mean, it was like everyone's got a different concept of their community and their rodeo and how things come together. Was there anything that maybe you're like, we don't need to do that anymore? Or did any of that kind of stuff happen?
It did. We had century roping, which we've had for years and years. And it's a local roping where the ages have to add up to 100 years. We would always bring the top back and let them rope in our rodeo. So that was kind of fun to see all of the locals being able to participate in the rodeo. But we decided we want to add breakaway this year. And so we did decide to go ahead and just hold our century roping as a one-day event instead of throughout the week of the rodeo. So that was one that we did say goodbye to for now during the rodeo, but it's still a big part of the rodeo, just at a different time.
Was it like, sorry, Jimmy, you're 5. If you were 6 next week, we would have cut the 100. So we're blaming you for not getting to 100. Is that how you did it?
No. It was we had some good feedback from it, but we just decided we wanted to go ahead and add the breakaway and let the girls be more involved in the rodeo.
Talk to us more about breakaway, because we're obviously having it here in Vegas. They had it in Texas.
Yep.
We get a lot of, we share world standings and things like that with our social because it's for the NFR. My God, we need to add breakaway. Because we don't have it in there, and everyone tells us, where's breakaway? So clearly this is something that's becoming, it is a part of it, and I can't act like it's not. It's huge. Right. It's been a huge part of rodeo. Like, how does the event itself fit into you? I mean, how many contestants? Is it a part of the whole day's run? I mean, how does it fit into everything that you're doing?
We decided if we were going to have breakaway, we were going to do it just like one of our other events. So we actually had 122 girls compete. And then we brought back the finals as well for our Saturday night finals. So we wanted to make them feel like they were as much part of it as the rest of the cowboys and the other, barrel racers. We didn't want them to feel like, oh, it's an afterthought, because they're definitely not an afterthought. It's actually a new fan favorite to watch the girls come out and with times of 1.4 and 2.3, and it's just fast.
Yeah, I when I look at, I've been in the rodeo business for 20 years, not necessarily the rodeo business, but part of the NFR and production, things like that. But when I look at the growth of women's sports, right, even like when you think about women's soccer and women's basketball, at one point, MLS was like, oh, we don't need women's soccer. Now, almost every city has its own team. Same with the NBA, WNBA. They're filling the stands, right? They're building their base, and it looks like, no different here with breakaway, that it's establishing that. And at some point, you'll have loaded stands as a part of this for the NFR, and
oh yeah,
you can see that coming down the road for sure. I mean, it's awesome. I mean, I got a daughter. If she gets into this, I get it. Like, it's such a, and you deal with this obviously. And we've talked a lot about every woman that comes in this that we talk about rodeo, but you got to deal with a lot of that man mentality or whatever it is. And this is a tough one to do. I mean, because you're literally embedding it into the middle of everything, just like barrel racing, where it's different, where NBA's got WNBA and you got NBA, and it's fascinating to me personally.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, and not to, hammer the nail into the wood, but breakaway is just a little different than what barrels is offering, just because of the fact, like, these women have to throw the rope. They have to have that piece, and there's no opportunity to go buy the talent and the breakaway rope, and you have to be able to do it. And I think that's where that little piece of extra watch or want is coming from, just to see this next level for the girls and see that other side. Mm-hmm. I want to touch on the actual rodeo itself and what makes it special for yourself and what might make it special for the fan that's there.
Something that did happen to us at the end of 2020, as crappy of the year as it was with the pandemic, we actually won AGCO's Sewing Good Deeds Award. So we were presented a Massey Ferguson tractor at Arlington at the PRCA Awards. That was pretty special. We received that for all of our community work that we do. We do a lot for our community. We give back. We give scholarships to the youth. We do our Power of Pink, and we give upwards of $30,000 to $40,000 to hospitals locally. We do our Patriot Fund, give back to the veterans. We give donations to the Caldwell Fire Department's Burnout Fund, Caldwell Police Department's Shop with a Cop. We just give so much back to the community. We did a YMCA backpack drive for them as well. To win this tractor was just kind of the icing on the cake for the end of the year of a horrible, sad, not having the rodeo, but to win this tractor was amazing. And the folks at Massey Ferguson, Heston, and AGCO, wow, they're tremendously amazing people. So that was pretty special in itself right there. We're not just a professional rodeo at Caldwell Night Rodeo. We're a big family. Everybody that comes there, whether it's fans, whether it's contestants, contract personnel, they walk away. They might have came as just a person, but they walk away family. Our doors are always open for them. For the last 8 to 9 years, we've been nominated for the large outdoor rodeo. Our crowds, if you haven't been to Caldwell or haven't seen Caldwell, wow, our fans are loud. They don't know quiet. Some people actually bring earplugs because the fans are so crazy loud, which, it's an amazing experience. So just the history and heritage of Caldwell Night Rodeo makes it special. We have a lot of second generation board members on our board. So a lot of us have actually grown up down there. So anywhere you turn, you can get history from one of the board members in some way or another.
You're second generation, correct?
I am second generation, yes.
How many fans are in the stands every night for your rodeo?
So over the 5-day period, we have upwards of 45,000 plus people.
Nice.
Wow.
Most of the time they're standing room only. We've normally been general admission. That's how the rodeo's been for its whole life. And we decided this year that we wanted to bring in some reserve seating. Folks had been asking for reserve seating. So we did bring in some seats, and then we did some box seats as well, just to kind of add a little bit of, they get a comfortable seat. They get an area for them and their fans. We have sky boxes, but those have been sold out. So this was kind of our way of not being able to add a whole bunch more sky boxes, but we were able to add some box seats. And that seemed to go over pretty well.
Well, I think for those individuals that want that extra area or one exact spot, this is where I'm going to sit. There's just kind of that crowd that is willing to pay that little extra more just to guarantee this is where I'm going to sit. This is where I'm going to enjoy my night. I don't want to think about it.
Absolutely.
How good does it feel to sit right in that middle where the money world for rodeo, you're right in the middle of that, correct?
Correct.
Or to the Cowboy Christmas world, or however you want to call it?
Yeah, we kind of fall. There's some good rodeos that are right before us, during us, and after us. So we get the top name cowboys that come through the rodeo, which is nice because everybody wants to see the top names. They want to see that, the right name. Speaking of, Stetson took everything this year at the rodeo, which was pretty cool. I don't know if you saw that, but he ended up winning saddle bronc, bull riding, and or all around. Absolutely.
And what's nice, I think what's happening with him, he's very polarizing, right, with the rodeo industry right now because of what he's done. And, you haven't had someone since Ty Murray do, pull off all around, winning bull riding, saddle bronc. So that becomes a bit more iconic cowboy, right, for the rodeo industry. And whenever he does something somewhere, they get a lot of spotlight on it. You're listening to NFR Extra with our guest, Nikki Zachary, president of Caldwell Night Rodeo. Let's take a quick break.
December in Vegas. What does that mean? It's time for the Wrangler NFR and the Cowboy Channel Cowboy Christmas, the ultimate shopping and entertainment experience. Catch live shows on the Ariat Rodeo Live Stage, the Yeti Junior World Finals, autograph sessions, and much more. Open daily with free admission at the Las Vegas Convention Center. Visit NFRExperience.com for details. The Cowboy Channel Cowboy Christmas. It's all here.
Hi, I'm Speed Williams, 8-time world champion team roper, and this is NFR Extra.
Nikki Zachary here on NFR Extra. You're coming up on 100 years. Are you planning for that yet? Or that's a pretty big birthday.
Well, it is a big birthday, but kind of the funny story about this is back in 2019 when we held our rodeo, not sure if you actually noticed this, a lot of people haven't, but we actually were 85th annual rodeo. So during COVID, we found out that we aged 11 years. So we jumped from 2019 with the 85th annual to 2021 to our 97th annual. Our office staff, they were going through old paperwork and we had thought that everything we had found was 1935. Well, in reality, we went back and found that in 1924, we held the first rodeo and it was a gymkhana. And so that was pretty interesting. But how come we were kind of sticking with 1935 was that's the year that we got lights and that's the year that we became a night rodeo. We were one of the first ones in the area to actually have a night rodeo. So that was pretty cool. It was called the Homesteaders Silver Jubilee Rodeo. In the 40s, of course, we took a couple-year break because of the war. They came back. The board decided in around 1963 or so, since the numbers weren't very good, turnouts weren't good, let's move the rodeo from August to June. They brought in, like Patty Page was one of the stars that they brought in. Well, we had a huge rainstorm and cowboys were getting hurt. Animals wouldn't buck. They were slipping. And they decided that in 1966 that they were going to move the rodeo to the current location because the rodeo completely went bankrupt. The horrible weather and everything went bankrupt. So the board decided to focus on the cowboys. And that's where our motto came in, where the cowboys are the stars, because instead of trying to pay the entertainment when they were bankrupt, let's be the rodeo that we are, focused on the cowboys. They changed the name to the Caldwell Treasure Valley Rodeo, and then the DBA Caldwell Night Rodeo came in. We've been in that location ever since, and we've went through a couple logo changes. Our most recent was in 2019. We went from just kind of the CNR logo with the ribbon to a cowboy with the railroad tracks. And that was actually brought about in 2018. We got a picture of J.W. Harris standing on the back of the bucking chutes, looking out into the arena. So we had our graphic designer go ahead and change that into a silhouette, added the railroad tracks to it, because if you haven't been to the rodeo, you're missing out, because the train comes through between 1 to 3 to 4 times a night, and he'll honk his horn as he goes by. Cool. So the railroad really, they play a big part in it. There's been many years that the Cowboys crossed that track. That's pretty cool. And then we chose the colors and the stars to represent the night rodeo. So it's just a reminder that Caldwell Night Rodeo is still an outdoor rodeo, and we're trying to be one of the top rodeos that we are.
So Nikki, first of all, I gotta get a T-shirt from you or a hat for
absolutely,
because you brought up J.W. Harris, and like Brylan loves J.W. Harris.
I am guilty. I do not fangirl over anyone. I have been a part of this rodeo industry since I was born. My family has rodeoed for years and years, and JW is just a good man and a family man and a bull rider. And when I got involved in rodeo, he was, at the top of the game. So JW Harris, I am his #1 fan club president. Guilty. I'm in it for JW. I will rock that logo all day long. I had to pull it up on the website because I was like, she did what? And
isn't that cool?
You can see J-Dub in it. You can see the hat shape. Like, your graphics person did a phenomenal job with it.
Yeah, that is an awesome logo.
Then we decided that we didn't have a queen logo. So, like Miss Rodeo America, Miss Rodeo Idaho, they all have their own logos. So I will have to send you guys a picture of this too, just so you can see it. But we played off of JW's logo, our logo, and added a girl with hair and just kind of, in a sash. And it's pretty cool too.
But that all makes sense, right? Like you just explained. I like how you embedded that. Here we are talking about a logo. I love it on the podcast, but you got a train track, you got a cowboy, but that makes sense now that you said the whole train coming by. That's cool, man.
Yeah, because people are like, really, train tracks? Like, we even had one person when we changed to come back and say, well, it looks like he's peeing out there. And we're like, no. And like back in the day, we had a picture, I want to say it was back in like the 70s, and it was actually one of our directors was a cowboy, and he had a saddle thrown on his back. And we have that picture that actually became a T-shirt too, so there's just a lot of history right there.
Yeah, that's cool. That is awesome.
I love a logo that can tell a story though. Like, that's a fun piece to have in there of why it looks this way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that too. Something that we kind of skipped over was like the Rowdies and the Civies. And I should have talked about that more, but that is just something else right there. Like I was talking earlier, they're loud. They're loud and proud. For those of you that haven't been there, the Rowdies are on the east side of the arena and the Civies are on the west side. Before the sun goes down, the Rowdies are out there drinking beer in the sun. And the Civies, they always tease, well, you're in the shade, so you guys are just quiet. The name came to be quite a while ago when Randy looked over there. They were being rowdy, and he's like, hey, that's the Randy's Rowdies. Hadley decided to take on the Civies, and then the competition began. After we lost Hadley, Andy Seiler came and stepped in and took over, and the competition still continues. I don't know how long the wave goes on for. There's been times it's went on for 5 minutes. There's been times it's went on for 10 minutes. It just goes around and around and around. It's just the most amazing thing to see. And I mean, our crowds, we're just so proud to call them ours, because you look at a lot of rodeos and they have amazing crowds, but the interaction, I think we're one of the only ones around that have that amazing interaction. It's fantastic.
Yeah, when you do day drinking and then go into a rodeo, that I could only imagine what that produces for people watching a rodeo after that. That is the weather, I'm sure, is like perfect. Like yeah, I could only imagine the chaos and mayhem that comes with folks day drinking, because man, I've done that many times, and that always a story to tell the next day.
Right. And normally our temperatures are in the hundreds. Normally you're sweating and it's just hotter than heck. And you're like, oh my gosh, can we please have a cool wave come through? And this year we were absolutely shocked. We couldn't have had better weather. We were in the mid to high 80s. I don't think we ever got into the 90s. Tuesday night, it actually got so cool that we sold out of all sweatshirts out of our merchandise trailer. We had to get some blankets in there and more sweatshirts, and we sold out of that. It was just so chilly at night. We had pretty much sold out crowds every single night. Normally our Tuesday and Wednesdays on the lighter side, and I have to say every single night this year, Tuesday and Wednesday was pretty close to being sold out, but Thursday through Saturday we were sold out.
This is NFR Extra, and our guest today, Nikki Zachary. NFR Extra follows cowboys, talks to legends and country stars, and finds the stories that make up the season that leads to the annual showdown in December. Follow me, Nevada Caldwell, Rylan Bentley, and Steve Goder as we delve deep into the stories in and behind the road to gold. Listen to NFR Extra on Rural Radio, channel 147 on Sirius XM every Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 Eastern, with a re-air Tuesday in the same time slot. NFR Extra, all dirt, all rodeo, all year.
This is Jacob Talley, 3-time NFR qualifier, joining you on NFR Extra.
Nikki Zachary is here on NFR Extra. And I'm pretty sure Cowboy Channel covered you, correct?
Yeah, they covered us every night.
I'm sure that helps out show off like what you're talking about, right? Like you get to see the actual rodeo itself. If you're not there, you get to kind of, I don't know if you heard the trains, but I'm sure that, at least you get that kind of that experience that the Cowboy Channel is now providing for the rodeo industry.
Yeah, and it makes it nice because we have, a lot of our fans are getting older. I had a lot of them come to me and tell me that they were so excited we were televised because whether they couldn't make it out because of health or age or something, or they were out of town, they were still able to watch the rodeo and feel like they were still there with us.
We talked that you were second generation. Let's talk about Nikki and how you got into this business, or how you're, Western lifestyle rodeo. Where did you get into all this stuff as a kid, and then where you progressed into your profession?
I was pretty much born into it. My grandpa was a stock contractor, and my mom rodeoed and queened. She actually met my dad at a rodeo where he was a bareback rider and bull rider. So literally rodeo has been in my blood. I have an older sister. She grew up doing the whole queening and showing and everything. I grew up doing rodeoing and 4-H and FFA. I held one queen title, decided it wasn't for me. I liked the rodeo aspect of it better. My mom got involved with Caldwell Night Rodeo before I was born. And so, like I said, I was literally born into the rodeo. I was a month old when I attended my first Caldwell Night Rodeo. My mom was an amazing lady and somebody that I look up to even to this day. But she was the first woman to ever be president of a major PRCA rodeo. And she did that in 1988. And then again in 1994. So growing up, I was always striving to be like my mom, because she was just, everybody looked up to her. And literally all I ever knew in the summer was Caldwell Night Rodeo. So when I was about 7 years old, myself and another one of the director's daughters would sell caps and t-shirts. And we literally had our little boxes of caps and t-shirts and our money box, and we sat at a picnic table. No adults were around. They were at the ticket booth, so they would watch us. But I couldn't even imagine doing that now, in this day and age. But it was just amazing memories like that. And that just shows we're a family. And then when I got old enough, I helped out in the rodeo office, and then I carried flags for my mom. And then I started helping her out. And then I lost my mom in 2007. And so I had been helping out up to the point where she had got sick. And then after she had passed, I just stepped in and kind of took over her role at the rodeo. And then I was put on the board. So I've been on the board over 10 years now in official capacity. I'm also the queen coordinator there. And I help out with production, do all the flag girls, all of the sponsor flags. I became president in 2020. Never thought that I'd be president during a pandemic. That was definitely a roller coaster and an experience that I do have to say, I hope nobody ever has to go through that again. But it also made us look at things a lot differently and helped us realize that there's stuff that we could change to make it better for the rodeo. And then I got to remain on for 2021. And I feel that we had the best year that we've ever had. And so I'm really happy and proud to be able to say that I was president during a pandemic and the year after, and that I got to follow in my mom's footsteps. So that's just, an amazing heritage right there in itself, and just something that I'm super proud of.
What's really cool about rodeo and the communities that they're attached to, the stories like yourself, is that this happens a lot throughout the country, right? Where I think it's what makes rodeo so special, is that when you start to peel back the lid, or peel back the, kind of the layers of everything, and you start to find out that there's been these generations, these family of generations that have been a part of that rodeo, and the knowledge and the history that they bring. I mean, give it up to Cowboy Channel, to, Patrick Gotch and the group, to kind of unveiling this to people that a lot of people I think took for granted and not realize this happens a lot. I've gotten to be a part of it. When I go to these rodeos, we get to get these tours, we meet everybody. You're like, hey, meet Jim. This is my cousin, and he's been doing it for 30 years. And
right.
I don't know if that happens. I try to wrap my mind around the event business, and I don't know if that happens in other events, right? Maybe golf in certain areas, maybe. I mean, not the way the rodeo industry is. And that's what makes it so special. And stories like yourself, it's fascinating to hear that and to be a part of that. And definitely with your mom, like that. God bless, she's not here. Because she'd probably be giving you a lot of tips, like how to deal with dudes that she had to deal with and stuff like that. Because we're so difficult as it is, right?
My mom was the only female on the board. And then when she passed away, I became the only female on the board. And then last year we added another gal to our board. So there's 2 of us female directors now. And then of course our marketing manager. So it's nice to actually have some females in there. Because I mean, as much as nobody wants to admit it, it is a good old boys club. But the thing is with those guys, I don't think of it that way because they're my family. Like literally, I have grown up with some of them since I was a month old. I had a gentleman at our rodeo meeting Monday night that gave me a great big hug. And he's like, honey, he goes, well, you did it. He goes, you've worked towards this your whole entire life. And he goes, I'm proud of you. He goes, this is something that you grew up with. And he goes, you've been here all 41 years of your life. And he goes, it's just something pretty darn special.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. How does the terms work for president? Because you're saying that you're in for is it only 1 year, or how does that work?
Yep. It's just 1 year.
Wow.
So we go through, the ranks. It's really like a 4-year obligation. As soon as I'm past president, I'll still be on the e-board for another year. So really it's a 5-year term.
That's, what though? I think that's good for rodeo, right? I think we had talked to Dale Brisby about this, right? The other Dale Brisby, and when he's not Dale Brisby, right? And he talked about the youth part of people being part of these boards and the kind of the rotation system, and it keeps everything fresh, right? Rather than, hey man, that guy's been on here for 30 years and his ideas are always the same and he thinks they're great and we got to get him out of here, because it's not working, I mean, that's awesome. Wow.
I know.
Like that, right?
Yeah, I know a couple of rodeos that, there's been guys that have been president for 13 plus years. And it's like, holy moly, some people are like, man, it should be a 2-year term. And honestly, if you do a 2-year term, that's like 10 years right there that you're going to be on the e-board. And you're right. I think it's good to do the year rotation. Just you're still on there, but new ideas can be brought on with the new person moving on to the e-board. And, it's good because everything's changing all the time. So it's good to get the fresh perspectives instead of like, oh man, we've been on this board for 30 years and this is how we used to do it. Yes, we used to do it that way, but there's ways to still do it the way we did, but to make it better and fresh ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we go through that with the NFR. I mean, it's obviously the rodeo or the Super Bowl of rodeo, and you still have to look at things. You almost got to like reverse engineer things and look at things and say, why have we been doing it forever, and should we keep doing it? It's not to just say, well, we need to get rid of it, but look, why is it there? Where is it at now? And can we continue to do it, or can we make tweaks to it, just little nudges, or but that's what makes the ability to make rodeo so awesome. So that's cool.
And what people don't realize is a lot of people come to me and they're like, oh, you guys just start planning it like in March to have the rodeo in August. And it's like, no, not at all. Actually, I said, we start planning it, the meeting right after the rodeo. And, we go through our critiques, what we saw that we can make better, little oopsies or, whatever. And let's work on that. We have a whole year to make it, bigger, better, smoother.
100%. We do the same thing. I mean, in fact, after Texas for NFR, we were meeting with the president all the way up until Christmas, and I think actually we were meeting on Christmas Eve morning for some things because everything was so fresh at that moment because of this weirdness that we went through.
Right.
That he was like, we can't let this stuff slip through the cracks right now. We got to jump on it and keep rolling. And we did, even to where we're at today, talking to you. You did your rodeo, and here we are heading towards Vegas, and all the craziness that's happening here in a good way. And for some things that we've had to address and learn from Texas and learn from things that we, probably wanted to do after 2019. So
I was so impressed with how Arlington came out with Texas. It was absolutely phenomenal. Considering the time frame you all had to work with to pull that off, it was pretty spectacular. So kudos to everybody that had a hand in that.
Yes. And here's kind of the good and bad part about that, right? The good part is, yes, 100%. We did it. Riley and I and a bunch of us here in the office, we talk about how we were able to bring Cowboy Christmas Junior World Finals, working with the team for NFR at Arlington within 90 days. Here's kind of the double-edged sword of that, right? The president, all the executives, they know stuff can be done in a very short amount of time now, right? So like, what a way to use that from a leadership standpoint of like, well, we did this in 90 days, so don't say we can't get this done. It was like, so I'm joking, but I mean, it is, you learn how you can do things a lot faster and from everybody not being in the office. So, again, learned a lot through that process. So yeah, you're right. And it was fun. It was good to get through it and see the Cowboys get paid and watch it on Cowboy Channel. And
it was so cool.
Yeah. I mean, it was good. It was a special time, right? You're going to look at that and we're going to get further away from it. And we're going to keep looking back to that, like at that moment, as being a really historic time for all of us. So
we needed that time with where we were in the world and everything. I think if we would have canceled the NFR, like some people were thinking, I don't know. It would have been a huge void, bigger void than it was with everything else being canceled. But it was just pretty spectacular.
Couldn't agree more.
Agreed. Because I think our rodeo industry as a whole, I mean, you talk about your family rodeo, right? That one community and how much it impacts you there. But the NFR realistically is like the biggest family reunion for all rodeos, whether it's your committee people joining together and talking about their rodeo and how it went, or the contestants coming together with their families at one place. It's truly the biggest family reunion you've ever imagined, coming to the NFR and being here in Las Vegas.
I completely agree with you. I mean, going back to when I was a little girl, you know how like you said, J.W. Harris, you're his fangirl.
Yeah.
It was with me with Billy Epbauer.
Nice.
Those Epbauer brothers was spectacular to watch. Them and Craig Latham, their whole story, everything else. And they were the nicest guys ever.
Yeah.
They would laugh and joke with you, and my dad would joke with them, and it was really embarrassing. We won't get into it, but like Billy remembered it in Vegas that year. And it's just the Wright brothers, the Wright family reminds me so much of the Epbauers that I'm so happy that we still have families like that in the pro rodeo industry right now, because I think everybody needs to grow up having heroes and people that they can look up to like that.
NFR Extra with our guest, Nikki Zachary, president of Caldwell Night Rodeo. After the break, we'll wrap up our conversation.
The Yeti Junior World Final is back in Vegas. From December 2nd through 11th, the next generation of rodeo stars will compete at the Cowboy Channel Cowboy Christmas, held daily inside the Wrangler Rodeo Arena. Visit NFRExperience.com for details.
Looking for tickets to the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo? StubHub is the official secondary and fan-to-fan site of the rodeo. Fans can buy and sell their tickets through a safe and secure online marketplace. Visit NFRExperience.com.
Hey everybody, this is Matt West, and you're joining us on NFR Extra.
NFR Extra with Nikki Zachary. You brought up Stetson earlier, and you're right. Like, if you think about right now, we're in the middle of that right now with the Wright brothers, right? We don't know what this impact is going to be yet till it's all done. And we have like probably another 10 years with these guys, right? Like they're all 20, maybe 14. I'm just kidding here. But like, seriously, we got like another 10 years to see the impact and where that leads us. Yeah, you're right. It definitely, it helps, I think, expand. Even when you think about NFL, right? Like, you know, I don't know how much you both of you watch NFL, but if you think about, you've heard about the Manning brothers, right? Peyton Manning and Eli Manning. I mean, that has like really helped the NFL and have these personalities. Now those guys are done and they're on TV and they're expanding the brand. And Stetson is, man, that kid is multi-talented, you know. So
rewriting history books at 21, 22 years old now. Yeah. I mean, it's unreal. He just surpassed Trevor Brazil's, single season earnings record. And you think about someone who's 26 world titles, and a 22-year-old just surpassed his single season record. What is to come next? Like, it's honestly fascinating to see what this individual is going to impact in the rodeo world. He's going to rewrite history books.
No doubt.
Absolutely. So I know Pendleton whiskey's like, the main whiskey, but we decided to venture out. We went with a local distillery here in town. It's called Seven Devils. They did a special CNR edition, and every year they're going to do it. So like this year we did a 97th annual 97 proof bourbon.
Nice.
And I have a bottle that after the rodeo everybody signed, but I don't know if you can see the logo.
Yeah. I like that.
And then,
that's kind of cool.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it's a great way to bring in the community too, right? Like that's awesome.
Yeah. Kept it local, and then a lot of people ask for wine at the rodeo because normally we're just strictly beer, whiskey, all of that stuff. And so we brought in a local vineyard as well for the wine.
I'm one of those dudes. I'm not the most rodeo. I love drinking wine at rodeos. I really do.
I was gonna say I am the bourbon and whiskey girl, and he is the wine guy. So
yeah, I'm totally the bourbon and whiskey girl too. Always have been.
Is there like a go-to bar after the rodeo? Like I know they say like at the daytime rodeos, like there's always like that go-to after the rodeo, right? Like how does it work with your guys' fans? Like do they attend the rodeo and then there's like a go-to bar? Is there a go-to bar before? Like how does your kind of crowd flow throughout the town?
We did have a long time ago, we did have a bar that was really on the corner from us. So everybody would go there, but now people just stay in the beer corner. They'll drink for a while, and our local Indian Creek Steakhouse, which is downtown Caldwell, became our official after party. But people had to drive there where before people could just walk to the bar. So literally I don't leave the facility for the whole week of the rodeo unless I'm running the queens around somewhere. So I don't know how that worked this year with them being the official after party. I'm sure it went really good for them because they're always packed anyway. So
love a good steak.
Mm-hmm.
I love going to rodeos and eating and drinking, man. It's awesome.
It is fun. Growing up, we never really went on vacations. We'd always go to rodeos, different rodeos. And so, I mean, my husband laughed at me because he was from a little town in Oregon, halfway over by Hell's Canyon. And so he grew up hunting. We're archery hunters, and I had never hunted before. And so he's always like, well, have you ever been to the coast? I'm like, no. So he proposed to me on the coast because I'd never been. And he's like, what did you guys do? I said, we went to rodeos and bull ridings. And he's like, seriously? And I said, yeah. I was like, that was our vacation because we all enjoyed it.
There's such an experience now though, like, right? Like I think people didn't understand the value of like what that brought to people as you go to these communities, the cool little foods, the restaurants, everything when you get to go to this, because they know Applebee's there or like a Olive Garden, and why would you want it, right? Like you want to go to these, these hole in the wall places or places that have been there forever. And
well, have you guys ever been to Happy Canyon in Pendleton?
Yes.
So growing up, that was like my favorite memory was we would always go to Happy Canyon. Like Pendleton always falls during archery hunting. A couple years ago, it didn't. So we took our next door neighbor, who she's kind of adopted us, and took her and my husband and I, we went down there and we got to see Happy Canyon, and I hadn't seen it in probably 25 years or 20 years. It was still the same. It was pretty cool. I mean, they didn't change it much, but I was like, oh, this just brings back to when I was little. And, because that was the one thing I always loved was Happy Canyon, because it told a story.
It's super authentic, right? Like, I mean, you go back there where where all the folks with the teepees and whatnot.
Yes.
And, you get to walk through that community and you're like, whoa, I'm going back in time, right? Like when you walk through there, because there ain't no TVs, there's no like cool setup, like you'd be going at a tailgate, for an NFL game or something like that.
And some of those teepees, they're just amazing. I think there was one that had like a queen bed in it. Yeah. And they had it all decked out, and it was pretty cool. Nicer than a hotel room for sure.
Yeah, it is.
It's just so cool to see how a community can be impacted, how a community can come alive during these small rodeos. And I mean, Pendleton's not a small rodeo, but it's a small town. Like you see this whole almost a 180 for these communities to just liven up. Like it's like the boom day for the town.
How big is your community or town for Caldwell that's attached to you guys?
Number wise, we're probably right around 62 to 63,000.
Oh, that's what the Allegiant Stadium fits here. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't even think about it like that. You think about the fact that the stadium here in Las Vegas, Allegiant Stadium, is 65,000 people venue. Your town is population 62,000. And there's towns that these rodeos take place in that are minimum like 5,000. Some of these towns are so small. I guess I never even thought about that. Like your whole town could come fit in our stadium.
That's crazy when you put it in perspective like that. Our rodeo next year is August 16th through the 20th. So you can put it on the calendars now.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Definitely. Well, Nikki, this was fantastic. We appreciate you coming on. I know you've been dealing with some craziness with fires and everyone else up there up north. But we really appreciate you coming on. This was fantastic. Learning about Caldwell Rodeo and all the good stuff that goes on there. The trains, the Rowdies, the Civies. This is good stuff. Thank you for coming on.
Well, thanks for having me. This has been fantastic.
We want to give a big thank you to Aaron Watson for sharing his stories with us.
Want to experience more of NFR? Then visit nfrexperience.com. And we invite you to subscribe to NFR Extra on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you're listening right now. If you like what you've heard on NFR Extra, we would love it if you gave us a big 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe.
NFR Extra.
All dirt.
All rodeo.
All year.
Gotta make it out to Vegas, where the big boys roam, with the rovers and the racers and the bulls and the broncs, and the ladies in the skin-tight wranglers and the cowboy